Hi, I'm James, and welcome back to Storytime with James. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. All right, this one's called My First Love. Yeah. How many of y'all can remember your very first time that you felt love? Well, it probably was infatuation, but I'm calling it love right now. But this was when I was 14 years old. That's kind of young, but there was another one before that one, but I that didn't impact me like this one impacted me. Mango juice. Yeah, that didn't impact me like this one did. You know, look, this one was started back in it was back in the 80s, in the early 80s. When I met this girl while I was walking down the street, and then we went to her house. Okay, went to her porch rather, and she had two sisters. You know, well, I'm gonna call her Stacy because she kind of looked like Stacy Lattisaw a little bit. She kind of put you in the mind of a Stacy Lattisaw. Okay. Well, the next day I went back over there. So we started getting a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. So I start feeling like I always want to be around this girl. I don't I don't know, man, but I felt I want to be around her. So we would laugh and joke and stuff like that, and share uh conversations with each other. You know, we were young. I think she was a year younger than me, so I was 14. She had to be 13 or something like that. So as time went on, like half that year went on, I started really liking this girl. So then all of a sudden, she told me she's moving. Yeah, she told me she was moving. They was moving way over on 60 something street or 50 something street. So I said, Stacy, uh, can I? Are you gonna give me your number to your new place or something like that, or give me an address or something? So she began to give me she gave me her address that they were moving to and stuff like that. So I told her, I said, I promise I'm gonna come and see you. I'm gonna come and visit you, okay? She said, okay. So after that, she moved away. And I was feeling something inside. I didn't know what it was at first, but then I finally went over to her house, her new place. So I went over there for a couple of hours, but it was a long ride there. I got on two buses. Then I finally was able to get there. I went to see her, but I walked around for a long time. Walked around on blocks and blocks, walked around, and then I finally found her place. And uh, then I had my first kiss with her. You know, this was unlike the first one that I was in. The first one I was in, I was like 9 years old, and she was uh 9 or 8 or something like that. So we just played. All we did was played. So that wasn't like this one. We had our first kiss that day, you know. then I was really gone. Then I was really gone. I was really gone. So I got back home and we continued to talk to each other on the phone. I would tie the phones up at home. Have the phone tied up. And talking to her. We talk back and forth, and then we planned on doing something else. So I was planning on taking her to a movie or something. But her mother was very strict. She was very strict. So she probably wouldn't have let me be able to take her to the movies, but I still tried. So after we began talking, I went over to her house again. And the same thing happened and stuff. So now I'm really filled with happiness inside. Until one day I had a friend. Uh his name was Stanley. Stanley Stanley had met him a girl too. So I was so happy for, because I'm gonna be honest with you, she was the best looking girl on my block.
Oh
On our
yeah.
block. Yep. And I got her. So Stanley was talking to me. Stanley was telling me, yeah, I just met me a girl. I said, how long you met her for? He said, oh, I met her like 3 weeks ago or a month. But man, she is something else. And so we was talking, and then we started saying, hey, I started saying, hey, what she look like? What she look like, man? What she look like? He said, oh, she's light skinned. She kind of short. She got these hazel brown eyes. And so I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. And what else? He said, she kind of put you in the mind of Stacy Lattisaw. And then I said, wait a minute. My girl put you in the mind of Stacy Lattisaw. He said, yeah, well, I don't know, man. But this one don't live around your house. She lives he told me what street she stayed on. And I told him, I said, what? He said, yeah, she lived on the street. And then I started talking. I said, look, my girl, that fits the description of my girl. He said, no, man, I don't think we talked to the same girl. So I said, yes, we are. So then I finally told him, I said, look, I'm going to get y'all on a three-way. We're going to get each other on a three-way. So I dialed a number and called her up, and she answered. And then I said, man, it's a crazy thing that's going on around here. She said, what's going on? I said, my friend says he's talking to a girl that has your description. She said, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. I said, yeah. Do you know anything about Stanley? She said, oh, no, I don't know nothing about Stanley. I said, yes, you do. You do. Stanley Martin. And she said, well, yeah, I know him. I know him. I said, are you dating him? She said, no. I said, oh, you're not? Stanley. He came up and said, yep. Yeah, what's up? She said, oh, why you do me like this, June? I said, why did you do me like this? Now, who do you want? Do you want to be with him or do you want to be with me? So she said, well, Stanley, I had told you before that it can never we can never you know, be like that. So Stanley said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, well, I guess us going to the movies is off then." He was planning on taking her to the movies too. So Stanley said, "Okay, I'm out of here then." He told me, he said, "Bye." He hung up the phone. So we was on the phone. Me and her was still on the phone. Then she said, "Yeah, why did you do that?" I said, "You know what? I'm gone too." Click, and I hung up. But when I hung up that phone, my heart, it felt heavy all of a sudden. And my temples were beating do 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 do. And I didn't know what it was. So, and then I got sick for a whole week. Couldn't go to school or nothing. So, and then she kept trying to call me, and I had to conjure up everything that I had in me not to answer the phone. So I let my sisters answer the phone and stuff like that. He ain't here. He ain't here. They kept telling she that I'm not here. And it really broke me up. I'm telling you, I felt very terrible. I felt like it was the end of everything. So after a week of me being sick, having headaches, and my heart feeling, just feeling terrible, I finally start coming out of it. So then I finally answered the phone, and she kept talking, telling me she apologized and stuff like that. But I I couldn't bring myself to forgive her for what she did, because who knows what had happened, what else she was lying about. Yeah, Stanley, he had been over to her house. So, and me and Stanley was around the same age. So I'm telling you, it broke me up. It was terrible. And I couldn't, it took me like about a year to get over her. It took me about a year. But then I started finally realizing it was infatuation. I was infatuated with her. But later on in life, later on in life, I had a chance to actually talk to her. So we were grown now. We were grown then. We were both grown. And I told her how bad she messed my heart up and broke me up. And she acted like she couldn't remember it. But she said, "Well, that sounds like something I used to do back then, but I don't know." She said, "Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Okay. She acted like she couldn't even remember it. Man. So, but she apologized to me. Then when she remembers some parts of it, like when I came over to her house and stuff like that. So she was like, "Oh, I don't remember, you know." So, but she apologized to me. So I guess I got some closure. But I'll never forget that. Never forget that. She had me just tore up inside. And I vowed never to let that happen again. Never to let that happen again. Yeah. Mm. All right, you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. And hit that bell notification. Hit that bell notification so that you know every time I drop another video. Yes. And share. Share my videos with your family. Share my videos with your friends. Share my videos with your loved ones. And even share it with your enemies. Adios. Vomit.